mouse when when it said that someone's waiting in the lobby.
Okay, but our interviewer has departed now. The interviewer has left, has it?
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson members. My name is Claude Bassett. Yes, I have been able to the meeting. Glad to leave the meeting if this is necessary now.
Good morning, Mr. Bassett. If you don't mind, and we will call you back in if that's okay.
Yes, thank you very much. I will do so.
Members, once again, welcome to this virtual meeting of the Standing Committee on Community Safety and Police Oversight. Our agenda today is to interview candidates for the vacancy on the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. As you would have seen in the OneDrive, we have the questions that we used for our last engagement when we interviewed candidates for this vacancy. And with your permission, we'd like to use the same questions again. I am noticing, and I'm not sure if I've got this wrong, Member Barnes, your voice seems to be leaving you. Can you indicate whether you are all okay with us alternating the asking of those questions, or whether the preference is for one member to ask all the questions?
Chairperson, I'll be very happy if you can ask all the questions. I'm not feeling well, Chair, but I am in the meeting.
Thank you very much, Member Barnes. I do hope that you feel better. It does sound like your voice is leaving you, and we don't want to strain it any further. Members, shall we then agree that we will alternate the asking of the questions among the members who are able to speak?
In order. Chair, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, in order.
Okay, I think I might just have to switch devices. I can't see anything at the moment. Not sure what's going on with my computer. Wasim, are you able to just table any apologies if we have?
Yes, Chairperson, as Member Fry indicated earlier, he's the alternate, so the apologies for Member Pretorius, and then Member Christians has also given an apology.
So Member Fry will be standing in for Member Pretorius as a full member, and Member Christians have tabled an apology. That is perfect. Colleagues, I don't think I need to remind you of the rules of engagement for virtual meetings of the WCPP, but I do ask that you just observe them, and that we understand that we mute ourselves when we're not speaking. If you'd like to get the attention of the chairperson, please raise a point of order. You can raise your hand on Microsoft Teams, or you can just verbally indicate to the chair that you'd like to raise a point of order. We are going to be interviewing candidates today, and then we have 2 candidates that we will interview tomorrow as well. The Western Cape Liquor Authority Board plays a very important role in the work of the provincial government, but I think it's also important that we look at the overall contribution of the Liquor Authority, not just to economic opportunities in the province, but also in terms of the Western Cape Safety Plan, just in terms of harms reduction. So we're all quite versed with the work of the Liquor Authority. Are you also able to hear me?
Yes, Chair.
Are you all able to hear me?
Yes, Chair, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I'm not sure what's going on with my computer. But as I was saying, that this is an important role that we're playing in terms of interviewing candidates for the governing board of Western Cape Liquor Authority. And we're doing this in accordance with the Western Cape Liquor Act. Just to note for the committee's attention, one candidate has withdrawn their nomination and declined an interview. And for today, all sessions will be 20 minutes via Microsoft Teams. We do also have an interpretation service available if members need to use that. As per the rules of the WCPP and the standard operating procedure that we're using, members will have to log into a secondary device to access that interpretation. But if you do need any assistance with that, please do refer to the WCPP technical team. So we've got an interview schedule for today. So we will be interviewing Mr. Basude, Dr. Grootboom, Mr. Duplessis, Mr. Davidson Harrison, Mr. Sean Kutsia, Mr. Pillay, Mr. Fani, Miss Fani, sorry, Mr. Mangena, and then Mr. Rachwale, as well as Miss Martins and Miss Abdul. So those are the interviews that we will be doing over the next 2 days. And sorry, Wasim has just sent me an updated note. No candidates have withdrawn. It's just we had to reschedule one candidate. So I'm just correcting myself there. I misread. So no candidate has withdrawn. We've only rescheduled one candidate. Members, I just want to check, are you all happy with the questions?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, I still don't have any visuals on my screen, and I'm not sure why. But Member Bartman, are you able to see the questions in front of you? Not sure.
Not on the MS Team screen, but I have them open on the SharePoint, that link that was sent to us.
Okay, I can't seem to see anything on my screen, and I'm not sure why. Let me just go into my settings and change that.
Oh, Mr. Matthews is putting it up now.
I mean, I just have to log into my phone to be able to see the screen. So the only thing I can see on my screen is a blank screen, which I'm not sure what my computer is doing this morning.
Mr. Matthews has put it up, Chair. I can see the different questions as per the share drive.
Here we go. So shall we say that the first question will go to Member Kasim, the second one to Member Bartman, the third one to Member Fry, and then I will ask questions 4 and 5.
In order?
Colleagues, then shall we then, Wasim, admit the first candidate? Members, you also have the scoring sheet, if I'm not mistaken. You've got that as well?
Yes, that was also in the share drive, Chair.
Perfect. Wasim, are we...
Chair, I'll call in the candidate now. I think he has actually entered. Let me just check. No, I'll call him now.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Good morning again, Mr. Bassity, and welcome to the Standing Committee on Community Safety and Police Oversight of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. And thank you very much for making yourself available for an interview today for one of the positions on the Western Cape Liquor Authority Governing Board. My name is Gillian Bosman. I'm going to be chairing this session. And the way we've structured it is that we have 20 minutes per candidate. Each of the members online will ask you a question, and members will then note those responses. You are more than welcome to ask for any clarity if you need it. And members do have the prerogative of asking clarity questions on any of your answers as well. What we will then do is we're interviewing candidates today and tomorrow, and we will then deliberate. And the decision of the committee will be communicated to you via the Ministry of Community Safety and Police Oversight, who is the custodian of the Western Cape Liquor Authority. We're going to go straight into it, and I'm going to hand over to the first member.
Thank you, Chair.
Member Kasim, over to you. Member Kasim is just having trouble switching on the sound. Okay, Member Bartman, would you like to take the first question? Member Kasim's just having trouble with her device. I think it's Microsoft Teams this morning.
No problem. Good morning. Hope you are well. The first question for yourself today is, why are you applying for this position of the board? As a member that has been on the different boards, why are you applying for this particular board? Thanks.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the question, Honourable Bartman. Yes, precisely. I have a great interest in governance issues. As you know, Honourable Member, I've served on the gambling board for a number of years. My term of office, I think, expires at the end of March. But I would, the liquor board governance does certainly interest me. In a sense, there's a similarity in that they're both concerned with the regulation as a regulator, and looking at issues such as public interest, public harm, and getting that balance right. So my interest in governance and I think the experience brought not only from the gambling board, but sitting in other boards will enable me to be successful in this role. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Fry, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Sir, in your view, what expertise will you be bringing to the board?
Thank you, Honourable Member. In terms of my expertise, well, firstly, I'm an admitted attorney. I practiced for several years in private practice, so bring that. Of course, then in private practice, you're exposed to commercial transactions, liquor licensing, various other licensing issues. I have experience in organ of state, such as 2 universities where I served as legal advisor, director, and also in public entities such as the Western Cape Gambling Board, the Johannesburg Municipality, one of the companies there, I think it was the Parks and Zoo. I served in the national public entity, Boxing South Africa, many years ago. So I have that background and experience. In terms of qualifications, I have 3 law degrees, BProc, LLB, LLM, got a postgraduate diploma in forensic auditing. I've completed a number of short courses for relevant courses such as POPI, GRAP, corporate governance. I'm a member of the Institute of Directors, and pretty much by nature and my background, very into constant learning. So I think those would enable me to be successful if appointed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those answers. In terms of your views on the Western Cape Liquor Authority at the moment, what do you think are some of the current major challenges facing the Liquor Authority at the moment?
Well, I think the key mandate there is, efficient regulation of the industry and looking at the public interest. And one has to, I think, get out the message of what the business of the regulator is about. So looking after the public, engaging the public, making sure that they understand what the role is and why they have an interest, and the public interest is certainly very important. So one has to have proper communication with members of the public, and certainly take public interest into account when looking at the licensing in particular. And mainly, one has, as a board member, fiduciary responsibilities. So regulation must be done fully in compliance with the laws of the country, and in order to maintain your credibility and gender public respect for you. So I think that would be, to me, the main issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question is, what would you consider as the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority board?
To me, from a board perspective, I think firstly, compliance with all laws, ensure that you understand your mandate and you're fully in compliance. That's the one. Obviously, striving for a clean audit, and again, making sure that the industry is properly regulated and getting that balance right, that enable the industry to function efficiently, ensuring proper turnaround times, your licensing is conducted in an appropriate manner, and ensuring that the public feels that their interests are being looked after.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bassity, do you have any questions for us?
Not at this stage. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Members, I just want to check, are there any questions from your side?
None, Chair.
Thank you very much. This has been fairly easy, besides some of the technical issues that I've had this morning, but I think my screen is back up. I don't have to use my secondary device anymore to see all of you. Mr. Basti, thank you very much for making yourself available for an interview this morning, and also for your service on the other board that you do serve on. I was very sort of interested to note on your submission that you will have a lot of free time fairly soon. So I think this board will certainly keep you busy. So thank you very much for your time. If we do require any further information, Mr. Matthews will be in touch with you. But as I said earlier, the Department of Community Safety and Police Oversight, which oversees this, the Western Cape Liquor Authority, will be in touch as well. So we're very grateful for your time.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable members of the committee. I appreciate the invitation and wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I leave the meeting, Honourable Chair?
Yes, you may. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Members, I'm just checking with you in terms of a process. Are you happy for us to keep our deliberations till the end, or would you like us to do it after every candidate?
We could keep it for the end, Chair.
Perfect. Then our next candidate is Dr. Grootboom, if I'm not mistaken, Wasim.
Yes, Chair. May I open the door? Okay, there we go. I think Mary has allowed the entrant in, the candidate in.
I opened the door because I'm very grateful that my computer is playing along again. Good morning, Dr. Grootboom.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm well, and how are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for asking, and a very warm welcome to the Standing Committee on Community Safety and Police Oversight. My name is Gillian Bosman, and I will be chairing the session along with members of my committee. The way we've structured the session is that we're going to ask you a few short questions, and you are more than welcome to ask for any clarity if you need it. And we will also have an opportunity at the end for you to ask any questions to us. The way it works is we will conduct an interview. The committee will then deliberate once we've completed that process. And either we will communicate with you if we need any further information, or the Department of Community Safety and Police Oversight, which is the custodian of the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board, will communicate with you. Member Kasim is going to ask the first question. I think she is back online, and I'll hand over to Member Kasim.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. First question, why are you applying for the position as a member of the board? To a member that served before, why are you applying to serve a second term?
Thank you very much. Good morning. The reason for my application is that I saw that I am able to make a contribution to do something in terms of the expertise that I have gained through the years. And the question that I sometimes ask myself is, I have this knowledge. I can pack away all my books, everything, but how can you pack away knowledge? And what good is knowledge if you don't share it? And as a psychologist and working in the psychosocial field, I feel that I can still make a contribution. And I feel that my contribution to the current board, where I'm still serving as a deputy chairperson, is still valid, and that I can still make an impact.
Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Member Bartman.
Good morning. What do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you contribute to the board?
Can you just repeat it again?
No problem. So the first part of the question, what do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you would contribute to the board?
I think the one of the challenges, major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority is to see to what extent it can regulate the space in which alcohol is being sold, and to make sure that those areas where there is an illicit trade of alcohol comes into the regulated space, and within that space you are better able to control, better able to guide, better able to give advice in terms of the impact of alcohol and how it is distributed. And this will also include the macro and the micro manufacturing of alcohol. Currently, what the gains that that the authority currently has is really that we have managed to to get a 98% compliance in when it comes to the issuing of licenses and the response time to such applications. Also, I think the authority also managed to ensure that the to work effectively in terms of the regulation of the space, but also most importantly to see that if there is incalcitrant outlets, to bring that with of course, with the assistance of subs and liquor inspectors, to make sure that those trading places are inspected. And I think, and that is also one of the biggest gains, is to really ensure that the space is inspected, and that we don't have a repeat of Enyokeni Tavern that happened a year or two ago in the Eastern Cape.
Thank you.
Member Fry, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Groppe. My question is, in your view, what expertise will you be bringing to the board? Thank you.
Wow, that's now a mouthful. One, I have, as a psychologist, I have been involved in a number of cases where alcohol played a major role in breakdown of relationships, also in children where the children abuse alcohol, and having seen the impact that alcohol has on the young minds and has on families and on communities, I felt that I can bring the element, the psychosocial element within the space. So when we look at alcohol harms reduction, that the authority does not only look at regulating the space, but also to look and to see and to inform the licensees the impact, so that when liquor trade goes on, that it is done in a within that space. Also to ensure that that we look again at the use of liquor among the youth, and I feel that see that how can we limit or restricting the promoting of alcohol that target youth, and also maybe we further need to look at to what extent if we can up the sale of to minors up to 21, because we are well aware that that within this space it has become a norm at school parties and this etc., that alcohol fills that space. So from my perspective, psychological perspective, looking at not only the impact, not only at the sale, but also to be able to guide our feed information to our systems in terms of this is what we need to relay to our licensees and to our major stakeholders.
Thank you very much. Next question from me would be...
Sorry, I just want to add also, and from administrative point of view, to see to what extent we have deterrent systems for infringements and marketing restrictions, and to work within that space. Thanks.
sorry, I think I was on mute there while I was talking. You touched on my next question in a little bit, but the question would be, what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority board?
If we look in terms of what I just said now, is to look at regulating the content and the volume of marketing within in that space, which is important. Also, when I speak to regulation and the ban on alcohol space, also to regulate the direct and indirect marketing in certain media, or even if we can go that far to own media, like they did in the case of tobacco. Also to look at, see how we can to regulate the sponsorship activities, especially in the sporting arena, to look at regulating new forms of alcohol marketing techniques, the social media, to look at how we can best utilize that space so that we minimize the accessibility of that to use. And also, I think that I'm just thinking also about surveillance systems to monitor marketing of alcohol products run by independent bodies. All of these things are within that space is necessary to reduce the harm of alcohol and also the impact it has on our communities.
Thank you very much for that very comprehensive answer. Members, I'm just checking with you. Are there any follow-up questions that you have?
None.
Thank you. Dr. Grootboom, do you have any questions for us?
Oh, I nearly ask you when can I start, but I'm still in the I'm still a member of the present board. But one of the questions is that from a government perspective is that you look, because in some areas the time of sales of alcohol, if we as a province and as from the safety sector to put some limits on that, and also then I think I touched on it, to look at if we can up the accessibility of liquor to young people up to 21. I think it's currently 16, 18, I think, if I've got it right, to see if we can do something like that, so as to minimize the impact and what it alcohol does to our communities. And I sincerely hope that within our, when we look at the public good, that we don't go the way of Gauteng, or some sites in Gauteng, to provide liquor sales to convenience stores and garages, especially convenience stores at garages, to keep a lid on that, because we know that garages are 24-hour, 24/7, and that means alcohol may then well become 24/7 at these outlets. And I think that maybe we that the government, Western Cape government, and the safety unit should maybe look at something like that from a policy perspective.
Thank you very much for that. There are reviews of the Western Cape Community Safety Act, as well as the legal prescripts that govern the sale of liquor in the Western Cape, that are up for review. And I'm sure that's something that the 7th Parliament will have a serious look into. But we thank you for your time this morning. And I like how you said, when can you start? We're also very grateful that you are still on the job, that you're still on the Liquor Authority. So there are no further questions from our side. In terms of the next steps, either Mr. Matthews, our procedural officer, will be in touch with you if we need more information from you, or you will be contacted by the Western Cape Department of Community Safety and Police Oversight, which is the custodian of the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. So that will be the next steps in terms of this process. The committee is sitting today and tomorrow interviewing candidates, and then we will have our deliberations and be in touch via the Office of the Minister.
Thank you very much for you and your team for considering me. And thank you for the opportunity to be able, that I may be able to contribute to the well-being of South Africa on a broader scale. And I highly appreciate the questions posed, and that I could appear before your committee. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, I need to just figure out how. There we go. Members, so we will go back to the original schedule. I think Member Kasim is able to fully participate now. So Member Kasim will do question number 1, Member Bartman question 2, Member Fry question 3, and then I will do question 4. Wasim, are we able to admit Mr. Du Plessis?
Yes, Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Du Plessis.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning, and a very warm welcome to the Standing Committee on Community Safety and Police Oversight in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. My name is Gillian Bosman, and I'm the chairperson of this committee. I'll be leading the short interview this morning. I'm being assisted by members of my committee, and we're going to ask you a few short questions. And if you at any point you need any clarity on those questions, you're more than welcome to seek that. And then at the end, if you've got any questions for us as well, we're happy to try and answer those. And the process going forward will be, if the committee does need to get in touch with you for any further clarity or any more information, we'll do so via Mr. Matthews, our procedural officer. But the Department of Police Oversight and Community Safety will be in touch with you post this interview. So we're interviewing candidates today and tomorrow, and then we'll have our deliberations. I'm going to hand over to Member Kasim for the first question.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to Mr. Du Plessis. Your first question, why are you applying for this position as a member of the board? Thank you.
Yes, good morning. Look, I familiarize myself and identify with the vision and the values of this board. I served one term from 2015 to 2017 on this board, and I was involved as the chair for the Committee of Administration and Liquor Licensing Tribunal with my legal and legal admin background. I also sat with Dr. Platsky on the white paper for harms reduction as the member of representing the liquor board. So I think I can bring to the table some experience. I come from a background of business, legal administration, adjudication, and governance. So I think that as I said, I identify with the values of caring, innovation, responsiveness, integrity, and accountability. And I enjoyed serving. I only served one term because there was an overlap with an appointment on the Rental Housing Tribunal as a permanent member there. And that was a 4-day-a-week, full-day job. So I felt that I couldn't serve a second term on the liquor board at that time. And I then didn't serve a term. And when this opportunity came up, I thought maybe I can contribute again. I'm still in a position maybe to contribute with my background and my experience and bring some of my experience back to the table.
Thank you very much, Member Bartman.
Good morning. My
Good morning.
question is, what do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you'd contribute to the board?
The major challenges we always have is one of budget. Of course, that speaks to education, that speaks to communication with stakeholders, and harms reduction. The role is a very difficult role of this board, and I don't think it has changed over the last 6 years. I think the board is relatively new. I think this is about the third new board that you'll have since 2012. The challenges are to balance job creation in a responsible way for the Liquor Licensing Tribunal so that licenses are issued. The economy is growing. The Western Cape is growing much faster, creating much more jobs. There's Mr. Winder's red tape production unit that's done a lot of work. The challenges are therefore to balance harms reduction, but to also issue licenses and have responsible liquor trade and microbreweries in the province with well-educated staff and owners and ownership. The secondary challenge would be to look at harms reduction by, and this was one of the things I was an advocate for and initiated, was the fund that was created for education and harms reduction back in 2017, is to educate the public and maybe to look at legislative changes, which is very essential and hasn't been done yet, to bring in more licensed retailers in the informal and the townships areas where, let's be blunt, where there's a lot of illegal trading because licensing is expensive and the procedure and the requirements legislatively wasn't put on the statute books to integrate those small retailers. So I think those challenges to make licensing affordable so that the licensing authority can have control and compliance is something that I would definitely advocate. I hope that answered your question, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'll just continue with my question. In your view, sir, what expertise would you be bringing to the board?
In my view, sir, it's my humble opinion that I bring to the board the experience, many years of experience in legal administration, governance, having been a businessman in the hospitality and also having integrated into that business a liquor license for 12 years, plus I think I can bring more to the table now than I brought to the table in 2015 when I did a term, in that I served now for 6 years on the Housing Rental Tribunal, having served and adjudicated hundreds, maybe thousands of cases and issued maybe 150 to 200 orders, in understanding much more the socioeconomic makeup of the province, the specific requirements needed for proper practical governance. I'm a very practical person. I look at legislation, I look at interpretation of statutes, I look at the other economic factors, the requirements to grow the province. There's so many things that I think has assisted me in the past 6 years, that what I will bring is a better richness and a better understanding of how we should go forward. And I will try and play my role as best as I can on a practical and governance in governance, to be looking at effectiveness, so sustainability, proper utilization of resources, and to lead and promote and play a role in the socio-economic development and responsible liquor trade of the province.
Thank you very much. You've touched on what I'm about to ask, but in your view, what would you consider the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority Board?
Well, it's a very fine balance. The Liquor Authority has to ensure compliance with the Western Cape Liquor Act 4 of 2008, i.e. to govern, license, and regulate, and look at compliance of licensed retailers and microbreweries, as they call, micro producers. But it also has this role in looking at the public interest. That's why there's always people on the licensing tribunal that is an independent body without fear and favor, that looks at and plays a role in public interest. It looks at the public interest. And what is the public interest? The public interest is very undefined. It is the public interest for a retailer would be to create jobs and to sell products so that they can have a job and that they can have a business and make money. On the other side, the public interest is to make sure that the public has awareness and responsibility, and the public must realize, or one must try and make the public realize, that there is a harm in one of the harms of intoxication, or one of the harms of substance abuse is related to liquor abuse. And liquor is one of those that intends to instigate violence and instigate a numbing of the senses, and therefore effective regulation of retailers, effective compliance, and a very large role on the harms reduction and the core values and mission of the Liquor Authority is to play that leading role in the province and maybe in South Africa on how we address these. And it's one of the challenges that is not a one-man solution, but it takes a whole village to raise that child of counter abuse. I hope that answered fully.
Thank you very much. That was quite comprehensive as well. Members, I'm just checking with you. Are there any follow-up questions?
None.
None my side either.
Perfect. Sir, thank you very much for your time this morning. We really do appreciate it, and thank you very much for those insightful answers as well. We, if there's anything that we need as a committee, we'll be in touch via Mr. Matthews, but our further communication about our process and the outcomes of this process will be communicated to you via the Minister's Office in the Department of Police Oversight and Community Safety. But we thank you very much for your time, and we hope you have a very good day ahead of you.
Thank you. I'm very humbled to have been invited. and I hope that I will be able to play a positive role if I'm chosen, and be assured that I will do my best to serve the people of this good province like I've done in the past. And that is my sole mission, to still play a good role, and hopefully I can do that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wasim, I
Yes, Chair.
am not sure. I don't see Advocate Harrison online.
I'll give him a call, Chair, to ask
Perfect.
if he's able to start a few minutes earlier. Just give me a second.
Perfect. Members, do you want to take a quick comfort break and maybe refresh your coffee or tea? And we come back in about 5 minutes.
Yes,
Agreed.
please. Thank you.
Colleagues, that quick break, it allowed me to get a cup of coffee. The next interview is with Mr. Harrison, who is no stranger to the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. Mr. Harrison, a very good morning to you, and welcome back to another interview of the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. My name is Gillian Bosman, and I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. My colleagues and I will be asking you a few short questions this morning, and we will then, we've taken today and tomorrow to interview the candidates that have been shortlisted for interviews. If we do need more information from you, we will then communicate via our procedural officer, Mr. Matthews. But in terms of the process, once we've completed our deliberation, we will make recommendations to the Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape, who will then communicate with the candidates directly. So we're going to jump straight into the questions. And I'm going to hand over to Member Kasim for the first question. But at any time, if you need to seek any clarity or if you have any questions, please do just let us know and we'll try and answer those. Member Kasim, over to you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee. Thank you very much for the interview.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much and good morning. Question 1, why are you applying for the position as a member of the board? Thank you.
Good morning. I think as you'll see from a review of my CV, I'm quite a publicly minded individual. My background has been at the interface of law and public health and other areas of public interest work. When it comes to alcohol harms reduction, I think the Western Cape government has correctly identified it as a game changer in terms of making a difference to society and improving health outcomes and social outcomes in society. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for me, given my background and experience and interests, to make a contribution in this regard.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Member Bartman.
Good morning. My
Morning.
question is, what do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies that you would contribute to the board?
I would see an emerging challenge, which I'm not sure that as a country we have found solutions to yet, but an emerging challenge is the issue of the growing impact of e-commerce when it comes to liquor sales in the country. Our legislative framework at the moment, and the one in which the Western Cape Liquor Authority operates, as well as all the other provinces, in addition to the National Liquor Act, they were developed at a time when we were talking about physical retail outlets. And since then, especially since COVID, there's been this sort of massive growth of e-commerce. And one can be talking about approving licenses in relation to densities, in relation to specific community needs, but e-commerce comes in as a layer on top of that and really complicates ability to plan for liquor licensing and compliance. And I would imagine that it's going to become, or is becoming, a huge challenge for provincial liquor authorities to deal with it. Constitutionally, provincial liquor authorities like the Western Cape Liquor Authority are responsible for retail regulation, but e-commerce really takes place at an interprovincial level, which I think is a complexity that the authority will need to get to grips with. I think obviously the challenges of compliance and enforcement. I think we have about 9,000 licensees in the Western Cape, and one can't have inspectors everywhere all the time. And for that, I think the challenge to the authority is really to bring communities on board as partners in terms of identifying areas of non-compliance and really working as partners with the authority to address that. Obviously, unlicensed outlets remain a significant problem. The regulatory framework is only effective or can only be effective to the extent that one is operating within a licensed framework. But if there are undetected, unlicensed operators undermining the work of the authority, I think that's a challenge. And then finally, I would say the really fragmented legislative framework in the Western Cape when it comes to liquor trading. There are 25 municipalities in the Western Cape, and each of those municipalities has their own liquor trading bylaws, most of which don't speak to each other and vary hugely between them. And I think that really complicates ability to have a sort of consistent regulatory impact across the province. And I think that really detracts from the compliance potential of a provincial licensing authority. So I would imagine that is another challenge which over time the provincial government and local government needs to sort out to improve the potential of the authority. I would imagine those are some of the key challenges impacting the authority.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Member Fry.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Harrison, in your view, what expertise would you be bringing to this to the board?
I think that I bring a combination of areas of expertise to the board. My background, first of all, is in law, specifically in public law. I have a master's in public law. I have worked at the interface of public policy and law basically my whole life in many different capacities. And in the case of a regulatory body like the Western Cape Liquor Authority, which is applying the law, working at the interface between stakeholders and a legislative framework. I think my expertise around my legal expertise combined with a policy background in specifically public health, but more broadly consulting experience in a range of public interest areas, including issues of human settlements and economic development and conservation. I think the breadth of the consulting experience that I have can only contribute to a policy environment. And then I think that I've done a significant amount of work over the last 4 years, specifically in relation to alcohol harm reduction and the policy, understanding the policy and legislative framework around alcohol harms reduction, analyzing the and producing reports on the policy and legislative framework and specifically recommendations, both at a national level and in relation to the Western Cape. And I think that will contribute to the strategic thinking of the board in providing oversight to the authority. And then finally, I have quite significant experience in being in senior management positions. That includes 9 years in the strategic management team of the Council for Medical Schemes, which is a regulatory body also involved in licensing in a way, but this time sort of accrediting medical schemes, but in a sense analogous to the work of the Liquor Authority. I've been the Chief Operating Officer of a large non-governmental organization for 2 years. That's the Treatment Action Campaign, again in the areas of sort of health promotion, disease prevention activities. I've run my own business as a sole practitioner attorney for the last 5 years. And going on 6 years. I think that experience in sort of management of businesses, especially the range of experience in the parastatal, the non-governmental and the private sector, I think will contribute to the role of the authority in terms of providing sensible and transparent and rational oversight to the work of the administration.
Thank you very much. I think I certainly am very impressed by the breadth of your experience. In terms of the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority board, you've got experience on the board, but what would you say are those main responsibilities?
So I think that first of all, the Western Cape Liquor Authority has sort of overall responsibility for the mandate of the entity in terms of the Act, and it delegates a significant amount of the day-to-day responsibility to the administration of the entity headed by the CEO. So from that perspective, the board remains accountable, the accountable institution, the accountable body for the work that is taking place throughout the administration of the entity. So that means that the board should not, in my understanding, be directly involved in day-to-day decision-making of the administration, but it should be providing, because it needs to take accountability for those actions, should be providing oversight and strategic direction to the administration of the entity. It should be sort of monitoring for ensuring that performance targets are met in terms of the strategic plan of the organization, and holding the authority to the members of the authority, including the CEO, accountable for ensuring that those areas of compliance are met. The authority itself, I mean, has significant responsibilities in relation to liquor licensing and administration, in relation to compliance, in relation to alcohol harms reduction activities, communication, education, and so on. And I think there's a lot of thinking and strategic oversight that needs to take place, and guidance to be provided to the members of the administration who are responsible for actually carrying out those activities. So I think in terms of responsibilities of the board and its board members, to provide policy direction, to provide strategic direction, to provide performance oversight, financial oversight, and to ensure that as a body, we are working with sort of optimal transparency, and probity in everything that the administration is doing. I hope that answers your question.
No, thank you very much. That was certainly very comprehensive. It also gives us very good insight into what you've done already. Members, I'm just checking, are there any other questions or follow-up questions from your side?
None from my side.
None.
Thank you. Mr. Harrison, do you have any questions for us?
Thank you. I guess the only question would be, if I were to be appointed to this position, when would the term of office commence in this position?
So the terms will be communicated by the Office of the Minister. So we've got vacancies that will arise, I think, at the end of this month. So the process would be fairly sort of rapid starting from that, but the exact dates will be communicated by the Office of the Minister. And what generally happens is that there's an appointment letter that is sent. And then I think the appointment happens once the first board meeting sits. Wasim, do you have any different information to what I just shared?
Chair, now I think the term of office ends at the end of March, so you're probably looking at the beginning of April.
Okay.
But as you stated, it is down to the minister, especially since we're in a bit of an odd year now in terms of elections and those type of things coming up. But this is a priority matter for the ministry, which is why the committee is sitting with it now.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. I don't have any further questions.
Perfect, Mr. Harrison. Thank you very much for your time this morning. And also thank you again for making yourself available for this position. I think your expertise and the breadth of knowledge that you bring to it will be very helpful. So we thank you and we wish you all the best for the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to you and members of the panel. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Chairperson, the next interviewee is ready in the lobby. Do you want me to let him in?
Yes, please. Let him in.
It's a bit early, but let's go. There we go.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kutsia, and a very warm
Mr.
welcome.
Matthews.
Very warm welcome to the Standing Committee on Police Oversight and Community Safety. My name is Gillian Bosman, and I'm the chairperson of this committee. Along with my colleagues, the members of the Standing Committee, we will be conducting a short interview for a vacancy on the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. The process that we're following is that we're going to ask you a series of questions, and at any time, if you have any questions to us, a question of clarity or any questions that you might want to pose at the end, please feel free to do that. The committee is sitting today and tomorrow to interview the shortlisted candidates, and we will then make our recommendations to the Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety on members that we think should be appointed to the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. We are going to jump straight into it, if you don't mind, and I'm going to hand over to Member Kasim with the first question.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to Mr. Kutsia. Your first question to start off with, why are you applying for the position as a member of this board? Thank you very much.
Good morning, I'm seeing all the panel members, Mr. Bosman as well. It's a privilege for me to be part of this process. Yes, why am I applying to be a member of the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board? Is because I have, not only because of my skills and expertise and experience that relates directly to that, but also because of the socioeconomic benefits that are being derived from your organization. I've been through I am fairly familiar with the organization for some time, having been in the regulating industry for almost 25 years. So I'm to an extent, somewhat au fait with the work that you do at the Western Cape Liquor Authority from a regulatory point of view. But more importantly is your aspirations that you want to derive, as I could see from your annual report, as I could see from your website, and particularly the impact of combating the use of alcohol to the benefit of communities. We have seen that it has a dire effect still on communities, and in particular, it's got a effect, or almost a ripple effect on various parts of communities, being violence, being crime, and thereby impacting the economic prosperity as well. So I have studied this. I have thought about this because I am also personally on a new career trajectory where social and community upliftment is an inherent part of that. And the work that I do, the focus that I place on now on a daily basis resonates directly with the work and the aspirations of the Western Cape Liquor Authority. So that would be in a nutshell my response to your question, Madam Kasim.
Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Member Bartman.
Thank you so much and good morning. My question is, what do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you would contribute to the board?
Yeah, so I said I'm a bit of fay with the Western Cape Liquor Authority, of course, from a difference. Once I get into the board, hopefully, then one would interrogate and study those areas where there might be potential shortcomings, but also opportunities at the same time. So, Ms. Bartman, to answer your question, at first glance, myself having been brought up in a rural community where I know the plight of alcoholism and the improper use of alcohol, I should rather say, I can directly associate with the consequences of that phenomenon. So as the Western Cape Liquor Authority, I have seen that that is a priority in your organization to address that, but not only at the superficial level, but at a deeper foundation level. I have also, there is a Western Cape safety plan that ties into the work of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and the plan addresses what I would also reckon is a very important part of this process, of the mandate of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and that is to address the responsible use and the regulatory aspects at the foundation level. So I would see that as both a challenge for the Western Cape Liquor Authority, but also as an opportunity. So tactically and strategically, I would like to think that one should dive into that and see how can you, in a practical way, how can the Western Cape Liquor Authority, in a practical way, directly support that safety plan as outlined in the working document which I've studied, from an educational level, from a human psychological level, in terms of control measures, in terms of enforcement, in terms of just changing a mindset around this, holistic 360-degree stakeholder point of view. So I see it as a comprehensive role for the Western Cape Liquor Authority to play in support of the Western Cape Safety Plan, but in society at large. Once I get into the board, one would want to interrogate that further and derive very specific practical actions in terms of how one would go about that. I'm sure that at this stage, the institution is already very actively busy with that at this stage to put in practical strategic actions and tactical actions over 5-year period or so to address that aspect. I hope I'm answering your question, Madam Bartman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fry, are you
Thank you,
having?
Chair.
There we go.
I note your, Mr. Kutsia, I note your vast experience at the PPCB. And as someone who's worked in the logistics field, it is comforting to know that the PPCB had some really good people placed there in their organization. But in your view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fry, for that question. Yes, the first sort of experience and expertise I can bring to the board is my understanding of the workings of a competent authority, and having the duty to provide oversight and leadership in terms of regulating particular enabling acts in our country, and in this case, particularly the Liquor Act and its subsidiary acts as well. So I do have I had quite a bit of exposure to the regulatory framework, as you correctly noted that I worked for the PPCB, which was an assignee, or which is still today an assignee of a competent authority, being the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. So my experience with the PPCB ties directly with that, in the sense that I'm not only familiar with the policy framework, but also with how you actually execute and implement that regulatory framework and policies. But not only that, also how you ensure that there are effective monitoring and evaluation systems and a performance framework in place to ensure that that mandate is executed. So that would be my first contribution I could make. The second part is that in terms of the regulatory aspects, I was also involved in the regulatory development and conceptualization on an international level. You would have noted from my application that I have been privileged to serve on the Bureau or the EXCO of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, specifically for fresh fruit and vegetables on an international level. So I served on that committee in the leadership structures for 6 years, where I was also the chairperson of that committee. Prior to that, I was the chairperson of steering committees, and also at some stage chairperson of the technical committee. So I've been involved in the OECD. I've also been very privileged and fortunate that I could lead regulatory peer reviews to countries. I mentioned in my application the peer review that was done on the regulatory systems of France as a country within the EU context. And then I've also been involved, which I didn't mention in the application, is that I've also been involved in that context within countries within East Africa, Kenya in particular. And then I've also been exposed to and participated for more than 10 years in meetings of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, where policy is also set. It was mainly tied to fresh fruit and vegetables, although my experience extends to other products as well, not only plant products, but also meat products and even flowers and, the processing industry and so on. So from a regulatory point of view and experience in the international framework, I'm fairly familiar with that, and I'm sure that I'm pretty confident that I can add value in that regard. But the PPCB has also exposed me to very specific programs and projects pertaining to governance. And in this context, as a potential board member, I think that sort of experience could also come in quite handy. And in this regard, particularly the responsibilities that was assigned to me in terms of the King Code of Good Corporate Governance, risk management. I was a risk management committee member for at least 8 years, and then part of other committees as well, supporting the board, and particularly my time also the last 5 years at SAPO Trust, where I was the chief executive officer, reporting to a board, sitting basically on the audit and risk committee, as well as the human resources committee. So that experience from a governance point of view and also from a leadership point of view should add some value. Maybe just the last point I want to add on this question is that I do have a passion for leadership. And leadership, we know, is a relatively broad term, but I look at it, leadership from a personal leadership point of view, from a team leadership point of view, from an organizational leadership point of view, but also from a societal leadership point of view. And and the societal leadership point of view is the ultimate. That is where one makes an impact. That is where you make a significant contribution. And I would like to believe that my experience in leadership for more than 20 years, and in particularly my studies also complementing that, would add more value. Excuse me. So just in terms of that, in terms of the leadership on a societal level, one of the reasons why I recently made a change towards starting my own management consultancy is exactly driven by the fact that I'm aspiring towards moving from a relative degree of success that I had in the corporate world towards making more successful impact, not only in business, but in a societal context as well. So I've made a transition, hoping to move from relative degree of success to significance. And I believe that from a leadership point of view, that I could contribute towards the Western Cape Liquor Authority from a leadership point of view. And maybe I should just mention that I'm also not afraid of getting into, together with other board members, getting involved in not the operational function, that's the function of management, but also to conceptually apply my mind into terms of how can we put together programs that directly and impactfully support the aspirations of the institution, but together of the greater ministry, in this case, the standing committee, of course, of police oversight and so on. Excuse me for that. So, Mr. Fry, I hope I answered your question there. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last question from my side would be, what would you consider being the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority board?
The main responsibilities, I think, firstly, there's a mandate. So the main function is to execute the mandate in considering the particular acts and regulations that governs the liquor authority's function. So firstly, it's mandate compliance. The second part is we are seeing that in various public entities, and not even public entities, in government structures, whether it's national or provincial, we do see that there's a tendency towards underperformance, and please excuse me if I'm saying something that is sensitive, but you would realize that I'm born and bred in the Northern Cape, in the Macwaland, and those that have been in that area will realize and would know that people coming from that area is very, very direct. If we can use the Afrikaans, Australië, doekies om. But we're also diplomatic and we're also respectful. So I'm throwing it out there, and I'm mentioning that there's a tendency in government and also in some public entities that people underperformance has become a norm. And when I say underperformance, one just have to look at the number of qualified audits that are being received by various companies, public companies, even municipalities, and so forth. So I think that the second key function of the Western Cape Liquor Authority is to execute the mandate responsibly and ensure that there's not only compliance to the mandate, but that there's good governance. And that is financial governance, it is strategic governance, it's oversight, etc. The third part is the Western Cape Liquor Authority's focus on addressing the impact or combating the impact of improper use of alcohol. And also in that way, of course, regulating how alcohol is being, the alcohol value chain. And we also know that the Western Cape Liquor Authority is involved in them. The role is even extending towards the manufacturers of those alcohol products. So one needs to, the organization then obviously needs to ensure that it got the necessary processes and practices in place to provide oversight in terms of that. And and it was quite enlightening to see that over the last year or two that the institution has added more capacity in the form of people, for the institution to enforce those acts. But I think the third point, and one of the most key functions I would imagine from the Western Cape Liquor Authority is its contribution to what I mentioned earlier on the foundational level. And that is where we address the root cause of the problem leading to improper use of alcohol or improper trade of alcohol or improper manufacturing and so on. And that is where I believe that the Western Cape Liquor Authority has got a critical role in terms of educating society, critical role in bringing stakeholders on board on a 360-degree level. In other words, multiple stakeholders to collectively address the problem of liquor regulation in the country. So stakeholder engagement between the public sector and the private sector and all involved parties, I would imagine should be paramount to the Western Cape Liquor Authority. And maybe just lastly, I do also anticipate that the Western Cape Liquor Authority, as the leading institution for regulating the Liquor Act in the Western Cape, one would also want to, from time to time, rely, or not from time to time, one actually has sort of a research role as well. The organization is not a research institution, but I would imagine that one also wants to see what's happening internationally in terms of countries that are addressing similar sort of challenges and how one can learn from that and internalize that within the South African society and particularly within the Western Cape. So that is in a nutshell, Mr. Bosman, my understanding. I know there's more in terms of the role as being governed or as being promulgated in the acts, and also what is particularly the role for the Western Cape Liquor Authority. But I interpret it as being those 3 to 4 key pillars.
Thank you very much for those very comprehensive answers to our questions. And thank you very much for making yourself available for an interview. As I outlined earlier, the committee is going to spend the next 2 days interviewing shortlisted candidates, and we will then make our recommendation to the Western Cape Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety, who will then lead the appointment process. In terms of communication, if there's anything that we need from you, we will be in touch with you via Mr. Matthews, our procedural officer. But going forward, the communication will be by the Office of the Minister in the Department of Community Safety. So thank you very much for your time and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bosman, and all the panel members. It was an absolute privilege to be part of this discussion, and good luck with the rest of the process. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Members, we have a little break, a few minutes of reprieve before the next interview. It is now 9:42. Can I ask that we're back here at 10 o'clock for the next interview, which will be with Ms. Pillay?
In order.
Thanks very much. I'll see you at 10 o'clock. Colleagues, I'm just checking that everybody is back at their desks and ready to start going with the next interview.
I'm here.
Yes, Chair.
Perfect. Everybody is back. Welcome back from the break. Good morning, Ms. Pillay, and welcome to the Standing Committee on Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Ms. Pillay, are you able to hear me? Ms. Pillay, are you able to hear me?
Hello.
Good morning. Are you able to hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Good morning once again. My name is Gillian Bosman. I am the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Along with my colleagues, the other members of the committee, we are going to ask you a series of questions for the position as an interview as part of the vacancies that arose in the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. The process that we're following is that we'll ask you some short questions, which you will then answer. If you need to ask any clarity questions, you're welcome to do so. And then we'll have some time at the end for you to ask us any questions. And the appointment is done by the Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape. So the ministry will be in touch with you in terms of the next steps. But if we have any questions with regards to our interview and any more information that we might need, our procedural officer, Mr. Matthews, will be in touch with you. So we'll go straight into the questions and I'll hand over to Member Kasim.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to Ms. Pillay. Your first question, why are you applying for this position as a member of the board? Thank you.
Okay, I think I have sufficient experience, as you would have seen from my form, my nomination application form. I had served on the KwaZulu-Natal Liquor Authority for 6 years, which is the maximum that's allowed. I think I made a big difference while I was there. I'm very passionate about the issue of liquor and particularly the harms that are being experienced on a continuous basis. But I also understand that it is an economic activity that needs, that must be considered as well. For me, the key is balance. And I believe that with my experience and where I am at this stage in my life, I am able to give back and to give back adequately. I don't have too much on my plate. So I think if I'm appointed, I can give the position sufficient time and I can make a difference. I have that confidence.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Member Bartman.
Good morning. My question is, good morning. What do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you can contribute to the board?
Okay, I'm not going to pretend to know what your challenges are, but having been in that space, I think the challenges are kind of universal throughout the country. But I think two of the provinces that come to mind, just taking what's in the media, is the Western Cape and KZN, and I have experience in both. For me, the challenge is not regulation. I think the regulatory framework is there. It's the implementation and the stakeholder engagement. What I find is a challenge is that there isn't, there is the stakeholder engagement in terms of the policies, etc. But is that being drilled down deep enough? I think not. So, in as much as on paper there may be stakeholder engagement, I don't think it's effective. And I think that's where we should be focusing on. And ensuring that all the relevant stakeholders are on the same page. You'll find a lot, there is, kind of people, some organizations are territorial, and there's no need for that. We've got to break through that and not have people working in silos, because I think if all the relevant stakeholders came together, they can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Fry, over to you.
Sorry, Chair, I was wondering with the mute button there for a second. Ms. Pillay, if you could please, in your view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board?
I'm a lawyer, to begin with, over 30 years experience as an attorney, practicing attorney. I've sat on a similar body for 6 years. I sat on another regulatory body, that's the Transport Appeal Tribunal. So I have processes, etc. But in addition to that, I'm also able to bring a lot to a governing body. Because I'm a chartered director, and I think there are only under 150 in the whole country. So I've gone through that very rigorous process that's put in place by the IODSA. And so, I have all that experience. And in my master's degree, I did a master's degree in commercial law. I also covered various aspects of governance. So I have a fairly thorough working knowledge of the King Code, and I think I can bring that to the at a board level. But I don't think one should only have governance experience to come to a board like this. One also needs to know how the regulatory framework operationally works. And I think I have all that knowledge, and I think I can bring that experience and expertise to the board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last question from me would be, what would you consider being the main responsibilities of a well-functioning liquor authority board?
Listen, I think that, governments made the right move a while ago by embracing the King report. It's not wholly relevant to every organization, but I think the principles there, while sitting on the board, we ensure that those principles are incorporated in the way we function as a board. We provide ethical direction. We ensure that ethical culture is, permeates throughout the board and do it by setting an example. I think that's very important. I don't think we can be oblivious to the fact that corruption is so endemic in this country. And that is so important, because if we address that and we ensure that the organization has sufficient controls in place to monitor those kinds of things, and coming back to the liquor industry, that is also, there's a hell of a lot of corruption, not among liquor traders only, it's among staff. We've got to ensure that that we have controls in place to monitor their activities, etc. So I think leading this organization ethically, ensuring that there are sufficient controls, that you monitor the performance of the company, of the entity, etc. It's all of those things. I don't want to go through all the principles of the King report, but I'm very passionate about incorporating that in government structures as well. I think it can only do us good and take us forward. I hope I've answered the question and not deviated.
No, you have. Thank you very much for that. Members, I am just checking with you. Do you have any follow-up questions? Member Bartman?
Thank you, Chair, and Ms. Pillay. You sound and seem like you have a wealth of knowledge and experience. I just wanted to check on a technical matter. It says on your CV that you're currently based in KZN, and I know that the section refers to permanent membership in the Western Cape upon appointment, and I just want to find out what the plans are in that regard.
Okay, in that regard, I am leaving KZN on the 27th, that's on Tuesday. I take up residency in Century City on the 1st of March, and that was, it was always a plan to retire in the Western Cape, but that was accelerated because I just have 2 kids and both last year secured employment in the Western Cape. So they are based there, so we are joining the kids.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, are there any other questions? Ma'am, if you don't mind, I was quite interested in your CV that you chaired or participated in a commission that investigated police inefficiency in the KZN province. In terms of the Liquor Authority, what opportunities do you think exist for the Liquor Authority and the police to more closely work together to combat not just the illegal sale of liquor, but also some of the harms associated with the abuse of liquor?
My experience, I'll just share one, but not necessarily because of it. The Commission of Inquiry was very focused on a particular incident, and it was very much a politically motivated incident. You know about the violence in KZN between the IFP in those days and the ANC. So that was very focused on that. And it was just investigating the police inefficiency in general, but focused on why they were not efficient enough on that particular occasion. But let me tell you that when I went in here into the Liquor Authority, what I found was, obviously an entity like this would be very heavily dependent on police participation in regulating the industry. I mean, it would be naive to believe that, a few inspectors can do that. They can't. The police are absolutely critical. But what I found is that we established the Social and Ethics Committee for the very first time. And I found that the officials were able to come and say, yes, we have these stakeholder forums and we engage here. But when you went into what the engagement was about, it was just about people coming together, having their teas, discussing the problems generally without coming up with any solutions, of course. So and when I dug deeper, I arranged with the Provincial Director of Public Prosecutions, the office, and I arranged a workshop where the prosecutors, the police, and officials of the Liquor Authority would meet for a workshop just on being educated on the relevant legislation. Now, that doesn't just involve the Liquor Act only, it involves the criminal acts, relevant sections of the criminal acts. And I was absolutely shocked to find out that starting from the prosecutorial authority right down to the police personnel, they were not aware of the provisions of the relevant legislation. We had an advocate, senior advocate, come from the prosecuting authority, come there and not know that there was a new act in place. So I'm just telling you about that because sometimes we take things for granted. Our police, I don't know about the Western Cape, I'm not going to claim to know, but we have to ensure that this stakeholder engagement takes place in a way that you just don't have an arrest, because that's not going to do anything. That's just going to use up resources. If you have an arrest, there must be a proper prosecution, and if the person's guilty, obviously a guilty verdict. So you've got to just drill to the final outcome. So that's been for me, it's the police are absolutely critical, absolutely critical. But if they don't know what evidence they need to procure, they're not going to act effectively. So I think that an entity like this can lead that process.
Perfect. Thank you very much for entertaining that question and for the insights that you've shared with us. And thank you very much for making yourself available to possibly serve on the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. There are no further questions from our side. Do you have any questions for us?
No, well, you know, I don't think at this stage it will serve any purpose, but obviously if one is appointed, I would really like to thoroughly investigate. I looked at your policy and I think it's a very wide-ranging policy. It's a very good policy on paper. You know, obviously I'd be interested to see how far that policy is filtering through and what mechanisms are in place. But, you know, to ask the question now is, I don't think is appropriate.
No, perfect. No, thank you very much for making time available today, and we wish you well for the rest of the day. As I said earlier, the committee will, over the next 2 days, interview candidates, and we will then make recommendations to the Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety, and the Minister will then make that appointment.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks very much.
Goodbye.
Colleagues, we've got the next interview, Mr. Fani, sorry, is starting at 10:20, so we've got 3 minutes to play with. I think Mr. Wasim, go ahead.
Miss Fani.
Yes, sorry, Miss Fani. Sorry, no, let me not misgender people this morning. As soon as Miss Fani joins, we can get right into that. Good morning, Ms. Fani.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Good morning. Yes, you are. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Perfect. A very warm welcome to the Standing Committee on Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. My name is Gillian Bosman and I'm the chairperson of this committee. Along with my colleagues, the other members of the committee, we will this morning ask you a series of questions for interviewing you for one of the positions on the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. The process that we're following is that we will ask you these questions, and you're welcome to seek any form of clarity if you need to. And then we'll also take some time at the end if there are any questions that you have for us. The committee is spending the next 2 days interviewing shortlisted candidates, and then we will then make recommendations to the Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape, who will then lead the appointment process to the board. We're going to go straight into it, and I'm going to ask Member Kasim to start us off with the questions.
Good morning. Your first question, why are you applying for this position as a member of the board? Thank you.
Ms. Fani, we're not able to hear you. Are you having technical difficulties? Ma'am, are you able to hear me? Ms. Fani? Wasim, are you able to just call Ms. Fani, just let her know that we're not able to hear her?
I'll do so now, Chairperson.
Thank you. We're not able to hear you clearly, ma'am. Okay, we're just going to give Ms. Fani some time to sort out those technical difficulties. Wasim?
Chairperson, she is going to try to log in with another device. I told her if that doesn't work, I'm not an IT buff, but I was thinking maybe I could just give her a call and I put it, she'll be able to hear on speaker, because I don't know, that might be the only other option if she's unable to log in right now. But I told her let's see what happens with the other device.
Perfect.
So maybe just give it like 1 or 2 minutes to and just take it from there. If not, we will just we'll try to work around it.
Perfect. Wasim? Wasim, is that an old hand or a new hand?
It's an old hand, but it's a new hand, but I'll raise them at the end of the meeting. Fine.
Okay. Ms. Fani, are you able to hear me?
Yes, Chair, I am. I can hear you, but the only issue is with this device, I can't put on my camera.
That is fine. We can hear you very clearly, so we don't mind not being able to see you. I think it's very important that you're able to hear us.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Perfect. Member Kasim, would you mind repeating the question?
No problem, Chairperson. The first question was, why are you applying for this position as a member of the board? Thank you.
All right, thank you, member. I've served on the liquor tribunal before, so I think I've got experience to provide my experience and expertise to the board. I've got experience in regulatory compliance. So I think with my extensive knowledge of laws and regulations, and my public policy background, I can ensure that the entity adheres to all legal requirements, which also, in the end, minimize the risk of regulatory issues and penalties. I think also what I always try to do is I always aligned my my principles and values of what I believe in and tried to apply those in the entities that I work for. So in terms also of compliance oversight, I can also provide that experience and assistance. And I believe that with my policy and governance background, I can oversee the company's overall compliance with different legislations relating to not just liquor, but also internally HR practices, finances, ensuring that policies and procedures are effectively implemented to mitigate certain risk and promote a culture of compliance. I think that's also what my experience with the tribunal. I can also provide guidance to the board in terms of how that tribunal works and what SOPs that the board can put into place to make sure the two sides work well together, the two units, the board and the tribunal work well together to assist the entity in achieving its goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Bachmann.
Good morning. What do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you can contribute to the board?
Let me start with the last part. Like I said, I've served on various governing advisory boards, and therefore I understand the dynamics that comes with such a position and how to deal with matters such as disagreements in boards. I also have a risk management background, and as a policy expert and someone who has done a bit of research as well in their career, I can assist with assessing regulatory risk and anticipate potential changes and challenges in laws and regulations that may affect the liquor industry. I think that it's important that an entity such as this one that is always under scrutiny, it's important to always stay ahead of regulatory developments. And I think I can also help the entity develop strategies to mitigate risk and to adapt to a regulatory environment that is always changing. I believe that my policy and research background is important in that it assists the entity to determine the future and present changes in government I think that's important because the entity operates under a public safety, under a public department. And with regards to challenges, I think I would speak to enforcement. I think that that's a big challenge. Sitting on the tribunal, I, had the privilege of seeing, the challenges that comes with the enforcement part of the industry, where you will have illegal establishments popping up every corner, and it's very difficult to control those. And I know that as the tribunal, what we had always adopted is to say we'd rather, instead of shutting down an illegal entity, it's better for us to help them become legal. And I think that has always been the challenge. And also, just regulating that industry and ensuring that the license holders are compliant with laws. That has always been a challenge as well. And getting convictions, I think that is a challenge within the entity as well. I think our law enforcers, or our, what do they call them? The employees who do oversight, they don't have much power in terms of opening legal cases against individuals who operating illegally. And that's why it's very important for us to have very close relationship with SAPS as well. And I think that's where the challenge, I think we are a very crucial entity, but we don't have enough teeth to implement a lot of strategies that can assist with the industry.
Thank you.
Member Fry, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Fani, in addition to your risk and risk mitigation background, what other expertise would you be bringing to the board? Thank you.
Thank you, Member. My experience in research, I think, is also very important for the entity. And I believe that research should be at the core of this particular organization. I think that research is important for policy interventions, which is important not only for the growth of the industry, but also research plays a crucial role in ensuring the health and safety of public or consumers. And it also assists with studying the effects of alcohol consumption, with the effects of, or rather identifying potential health risk. I think it's also important, or rather research is important in developing responsible drinking guidelines and developing educational campaigns. Like I said, I've served on various governing boards, so I understand my fiduciary duties in terms of that position. And also, I have a monitoring and evaluation experience. Well, I worked for the Parliamentary Monitoring Group, and I believe that this experience is important, or rather relevant for the entity, in order to monitor policies that concern the liquor industry, monitoring policies that are important for the functioning of the organization itself. Earlier on, I spoke about, because I believe that the role of the board is sort of twofold, right? You are responsible for regulating the liquor industry, and also at the same time, you are responsible for ensuring that internal control is there in terms of the finance policies, determining your strategic risk. I've got experience with that, and also development planning. How do you identify potential opportunities to plan for the future? Do you have the right skills, conducting it, and order skills in the entity? So I come with that experience, I come with my research, my public policy experience, and also understanding how the public sector works. We are an entity that is accountable to this committee. So I think one is to understand how the government politics works and how how the government processes works in order to be accountable and provide accountability. And also stakeholder engagement. I've been involved in those in a number of other entities. We are the liquor board is an entity that relies heavily on police, relies heavily on the public, relies heavily on NGOs and the health departments. So I think those engagements are very important as well, and having constant communication with different entities for the success of the liquor board. I think that is the experience and knowledge that I come with.
Thank you very much. And just a final question from my side. What would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority Board?
Sorry, repeat it again.
In your opinion, what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority Board?
Okay, well, like I said, I think the role of the board is twofold. One is to regulate the industry, and the other is to provide a strategic direction internally. I think we are responsible for formulating policies internally, HR policies, financial policies, PAJA, ensuring that we implement legislations and our policies are aligned to the government's policies. And I think that overall, the role of the board is to carry out its mandate as determined by the Act. I think that the responsibility of the board is also to define and ensure compliance with the values and objectives of the organization, as well as the objectives of the Western Cape government as well. Establish policies and plans to achieve the entity's objectives, and also to approve the year's strategy and performance plans, the budget, the annual financial statements, before they are published for public information. I think that is the role of the board.
Thank you very much for your comprehensive answers. Members, I'm just checking with you. Are there any follow-up questions?
None.
Ms. Fani, do you have any questions for us?
No, I had one, but I think in the beginning you've already answered me. I was going to ask about the timelines regarding the process, but you answered that in the beginning. So nothing for me.
Perfect. Thank you very much for availing yourself for an interview. As I said earlier, the Department of Community Safety will be in touch in terms of the next step. We will make recommendations to that to the minister, and the minister will then deal with the appointment process. But we wish you well for the rest of the day. And once again, thank you very much for making yourself available.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invite.
Colleagues, we're now going to move on to the next interview, which according to my notes is Mr. Mangena. I'm not sure if Mr. Mangena is online.
Chair, it's Mr. Rachwale.
Oh, okay, so I've got it wrong. I think Mr. Rachwale is online. Mr. Khwali, are you able to hear me?
Yes, Chair. I'm able to hear you.
Perfect. A very warm welcome to you to the Standing Committee on Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. My name is Gillian Bosman, and I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee. And alongside my colleagues, the other members of the committee, we thank you for making yourself available for an interview for a vacancy on the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. The process that we're following this morning is that we're going to ask you a series of short questions to which you are more than welcome to seek clarity if you need. And at the end, we'll have an opportunity for you to ask us any questions. But what we're doing over the next 2 days is interviewing the shortlisted candidates, and we will then make a recommendation to the Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety, and the Minister will then make the appointment in terms of the applicable legislation. We're going to dive right into it, and I'm going to hand over to Member Kasim for the first question.
Thank you very much and good morning. Your first question, why are you applying for this position as a member of the board? Thank you.
All right. No, thank you. I believe that I've got more than enough experience, especially when coming to governance, that one can really add value. If you look at the one's track record, I think the CV would have been shared, where one has led organizations for quite a while, and obviously from that point of view, I think one was very much interested in that. But also, I think also one is also very aligned to the strategy of the organization, of reducing harm in terms of alcohol consumptions out there and its consequences, and also it's strictly regulating the alcohol consumptions in terms of licensing and also inspection. So one is also very much part of the community as well of Cape Town and also Western Cape in general. And one has seen the harm that alcohol also affects communities out there. So I'm very passionate about that. Part of it obviously being part of my beliefs as well as an individual, religiously, so that alcohol, even though it's allowed, is a constitutional right for one to consume, but also it needs to be regulated properly, that it doesn't cause harm to ordinary citizens out there. There's a lot that one can go on in terms of my interest, but that's really it. I think from an administration point of view, one really with experience will continue to make sure that we run a clean governance within the organization, and we also contribute to the efficiency and effectiveness of the processes that we have. And obviously just also understanding the landscape that in terms of governance, the tiers of government, in terms of how everything is regulated. One really has quite a in-depth experience when it comes to that. Hopefully I answered the question. Thank you.
Good morning. My question is, what do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you would contribute to the board?
Okay, yes. If I can just start, I think the known challenge is the issue of capacity. Capacity to be able to regulate the space that we regulating, and also the issue that all the role players, especially stakeholders, effectively manages to assist in terms of our policing. For example, SAPS in this case, obviously there's been a lack of that. We've seen that. I mean, there's been an outcry in the news and so forth in terms of our police, especially in our townships, which obviously kind of create a problem, especially around substance abuse and things like that. But also internally, it's just the issue of obviously having capacity of own in terms of inspections. Obviously, internal capacities, it's a challenge, but obviously with the right strategy to improve efficiency, especially around introducing the elements of technology where you can, and reduce the burden of having one bodies only to do the inspection. So I think there's a lot in terms of looking at the limited fiscus or funds that you also get in terms of grant funding and also from the licensing as well. Obviously can't increase capacity to a point that you cover the whole spectrum. But obviously the key and the cornerstone of all this is to have a very key relationship with stakeholders. And so I think that's basically in a nutshell, if I can put it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. My question would be, what, in your view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board?
No, thank you for it. Look, I bring a lot of come from the auditing background, and one has been in the auditing space for quite, I think, for over 16 years now. And also governance. One has been in the governance space for more than 16 years at an executive level. And also not only that, in terms of working the space of public sector as well, but also leading organizations that deals with governance. I've been president, for example, of South African Institute of Government Auditors for 4 years. I'm in my second term of another 4 years until 2027. I've been leading all the accountants and auditors in the space in terms of my role as chairperson of ABASA, which is Association of Black Accountants in Southern Africa, in terms of leading transformation, but also regulating the space to make sure that this ethical obviously practices out there in terms of how we behave, and not only focusing on the transformation agenda. So the one really brings a whole lot of governance experience, a whole lot of making sure that we actually align in terms of our vision of having clean governance, and also to be efficient and also be strategic on how we optimize our resources that we have, and that our strategies are actually executed properly, and where we can enhance strategies as well. One has got a lot of experience when coming to that as well, to make sure that with the limited resources that we have, we actually become very effective in what we do. So the experience is quite a lot, and also it's not only locally as well, it's also in Africa and globally as one leads organization and meet with other role players out there in terms of how generally governance should be conducted, and what are the things that obviously affects communities and ordinary people out there. So obviously, while also one being the, for example, in the local government space, we've seen how communities have been affected by substance abuse, for example, and which obviously has got the negative impact on not only on communities but also on the economy in general. So they're quite a vast number of experience that one has. One can go into length in terms of the relationship once that has, for example, across different spectrum, from Chapter 9 institutions all the way to different ministries. So I think one really brings a whole lot of value to the board. So that's in a summary in terms of also my answer to the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority board?
Look, the main thing that the board needs to do is to be able to make sure that obviously the administration is running effectively and efficiently. and obviously that the strategies are implemented and the plans that we have are implemented properly. So that oversight is very important. On the other side, which is the external side of things, is to make sure that our stakeholder relationships are optimal. We meet regularly with our stakeholders, we engage our stakeholders, we make sure that we have coherent plans with our stakeholders. So it's actually very important that when we have the strategy session that our plans are not at odds with our external stakeholders, so that we have an element of reality in what we do. But also it's just when actions is happening, for example, to level that we have your CPFs, for example, and also our provincial colleagues, and also the national colleagues in terms of SAPS. So the board primary thing is to, firstly, in summary, is to make sure that execute the mandate, execute the strategy, make sure that there's good governance, and also that there's also a good positioning of the organization, and also good stakeholder management across, and that the strategic plans are implemented in collaboration for our stakeholders. So at the core really of executing this with limited resources that we have is to make sure that you have a situation where the board is efficient in terms of what it does. So that's basically it. And obviously the other thing as well is to make sure that we position the authority, legal authority, in a way that it's also known to communities out there, and also making sure that the licensing and permits that we issue are also properly regulated. We comply with all the regulations and the act, and to make sure that also we are not found wanting in terms of clean governance as well. So that's in summary from my side.
Thank you very much. Whilst I give the members an opportunity to ask any questions of clarity, I just want to check, in terms of your CV, it says that you are currently employed as the divisional head for performance audit and city operations in the city of Ekurhuleni. Is that still the status quo?
Actually, I'm now the acting chief audit executive for a while, but my contract will be coming to an end soon. So I'm not sure after that, but the status quo is currently I'm the acting chief audit executive of City of Ekurhuleni.
Okay. Member Partman, over to you.
Thank you so much. Also, just technical, because you're in Ekurhuleni, sorry, I'm saying it really wrong at the moment, and I apologize for that. One of the requirements for eligibility is permanent residency in the Western Cape. So will you be moving? I just want to understand what the plans are, and if should the minister phone you up and say, you've made the appointment list. Thanks.
Okay. Yes. For the past 3 years or so, I've been staying in Cape Town. I stayed there by woke up. So my family resides there. So permanently I'm in Cape Town. I work visually most of the time from Cape Town. I only travel to Ekurhuleni when there's a need for a physical meeting. Because of my my role and the type of work that one does not require you to be constantly be at the office. So being a resident of Western Cape and being a resident of Cape Town, that's me. Even if even in the next election I'm going to be voting in Cape Town. So just to put that across, yes.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions for us?
It's just a simple question. How long normally the process takes to want to get feedback?
This is a rather sort of urgent matter for us and for the ministry. So what will happen is, once we finish our interviews tomorrow and we finish our deliberations, we will then make recommendations to the minister. And I can't tell you how long the minister will take to apply his mind and to make the appointment, because there is another stage of vetting that still takes place at that level as well. But I can tell you that the current term for the vacancies ends on the 31st of March. So I think it will happen fairly soon, so that the ministry should be in touch with you fairly soon.
Okay. All right. No, thank you for it.
Perfect. Now, thank you very much for making yourself available. And we hope that you have a very good Thursday afternoon.
All right. No, thank you. Hoping for a positive response. Thank you.
Perfect. Colleagues, our next candidate is Mr. Mangena, and he is due at 11. So we've got a 5-minute comfort break, and then we can start at 11 if that's in order with you.
Good morning, Mr. Mangena. The
Hi, good morning.
committee will, I hope that you're well. The committee will reconvene at 11. So just gives us a few minutes because that was the scheduled time for you. So yeah, please stay online. They will recommence it in the next 2-3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues, I'm just checking if you are all back at your desks.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Perfect, then we will get started. Good morning, Mr. Mangena, and thank you very much for availing yourself this morning. Welcome to the Standing Committee on Police Oversight and Community Safety. We will be conducting an interview this morning for a vacancy on the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. My name is Gillian Bosman and I chair the committee, and along with my colleagues, the members of the committee, we will ask you a series of questions this morning. If at any point you'd like some clarity, you're more than welcome to ask that. And then we'll also reserve some time at the end for questions if you have any. In terms of the process that we're following, we are interviewing shortlisted candidates today and tomorrow. And after our deliberations, we will then make recommendations to the Western Cape Provincial Minister for Police Oversight and Community Safety. And the Minister then makes the appointment to the Western Cape Liquor Authority Board. And that appointment process is done in terms of the legislation. We're going to go straight into the questions, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Member Kasim, to start us off.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Your first question, why are you applying for this position? Thank you very much.
Chair, before I respond, please allow me to say good morning to you and the members of the committee as well. Thank you for the question. I'm of the view that my academic qualification and experience could play a role in contributing towards the business of the organization, effectively to the overall transformation of the economy. Thank you.
Good morning. The next question is, what do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you could contribute to the board?
I think from a strategic plan and an annual performance plan, it's obviously achieving the strategic objectives of reducing the socio-economic harms emanating from abuse or excessive consumption of alcohol, which would be through education awareness. And then secondly, which I think was there even at my earlier times when I was a CFO, in my view, is the reviewing of the revenue streams. I'm of the view that more could be done in terms of growing the current 4 streams or looking at new streams to sustain the implementation of the strategic plan and the annual performance plan of the business. So I'll take those 2. But obviously, they are quite more, I would say, transformation is one of them as well as an organization, as a third one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. My question to you is, in your view, what expertise do you bring to the board? Thank you.
I'll speak in terms of the role from a King for corporate governance role of the governing body, which is providing ethical and effective leadership the organization so as to achieve the strategic objectives of the business through ethical leadership, through good controls of the business. When you look at my academic background, and also when you look at my experience, I'm of the view that I'll be able to play a role in many functions of the business. Firstly, ethical and effective leadership. Secondly, through a strategic management process, from the formulation of the strategic plan and the APP to the implementation of the APP and the strategic plan, and then lastly to the monitoring and control of the strategic plan and APP to ensure that what we set out to achieve at the beginning, we are achieving in the end, thereby effectively contributing to the future direction of the Western Cape and overall of the country as a whole. So I think those in the main, strategic management in the nutshell, just to remind the three facets of it, and ethical and effective leadership. Plus, all this is supported by my academic qualifications and experience.
Thank you very much. In terms of your opinion, what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority Board?
The critical one is going to be providing ethical and effective leadership to the organization as a whole. So it's steering the organization towards what has been set in an ethical manner and a responsible manner, achieving the results responsible and legitimately. Creating a culture that is conducive, ethical, legitimate, in a nutshell, sir.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Members, are there any follow-up questions that you have? Member Bartman?
Thank you, Chair. One substantive question and one technical question, if I may. Mr. Mangena, it indicates on your CV that you travel from the UK, and I just wanted to find out, should you receive notice that you'll be appointed by the minister, how would such travel work? Yeah, I'll stick to that one first. Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed the name. I think, thank you. I would like to view myself as a permanent resident of the Western Cape because I own a house in Durbanville Hills. My family is in Durbanville Hills. My kids go to Durbanville Hills School. It's just so happened that currently, from a career perspective, I accepted this contract. But ultimately, my goal and my heart is home. I've accepted this temporal position for now, but if I am to confide and open up to you, I want to be home. I was just home. I left yesterday, I think. So I am strategically positioning myself to go home. This could be a footstep. I'm not sure if I'm answering.
Chair,
I'm
may
not
I
sure if
continue?
I'm...
No, that is sufficient. Chair.
Yes, you may, Member Bartman.
Thank you. Mr. Mangena, you indicated that you were the CFO previously of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and earlier in some of your answers, you indicated the possibility of reviewing additional revenue streams. And I just wanted to find out what you meant by that, if you have any examples of what such review of revenue streams or additional revenue streams would look like. Thanks.
Please, it's something I had looked at then. I must confess, I then was offered another position. It's two things in my view. It's not just new, but it's increasing the current. So it's twofold. Looking at the current four from the collection of fees, penalties, fines, or identifying new ones that could be added to the current four. I don't want to shoot from the hip, but at the time, I had done some authoritative reading, which I was of the view was worth engaging the HOD on, which I felt we were not tapping in. I could have read the authoritative document I had relied on incorrectly, I admit, but that was going to be something to engage with the HOD. Another area as well, from the quick top of my head, is in terms of the we are doing a lot of stakeholder engagement across the Western Cape. I'm of the view we could tap into the sector education's training authority. Currently, we're not tapping a lot to assist with that, and other forms of grant funding that we could look into, not necessarily from through our stakeholder community engagement projects. We could possibly enter into MOUs, memorandum of agreements, with interested partners who play a role in that, but obviously ensuring that our mandate is not diluted or in any way affected. I hope I'm answering, but obviously collection of penalties and fine as well is one area where we could start off, but which means enforcement, stricter enforcement. But I am concerned with the revenue of the organization. It does affect its implementation of the strategic plan in a way, because you can't, in fact, you can draw a very good strategy, but if the budget is not allowing, then you need to seriously start looking at how do you review that in order to implement your strategy effectively.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mangena, and thank you, Member Partman, for asking that question. I was thinking the same thing when I saw that Mr. Mangena was the CFO of the Liquor Authority. Mr. Mangena, do you have any questions for us?
Well, I was reading the latest, maybe when we spoke of challenges. Thank you, sir. I was reading the latest annual report. Well, it was not really questions, but observations, just to say, obviously, in terms of achieving our strategic objectives within each program, more specifically the corporate services. I was just looking at the transformation numbers and I was just saying to myself, look here, that's one area that we might need just to look at, because it's pointless when you are a governing body with senior management, you set out transformation targets and then you say out of a staff complement of 80, you want 20 Africans, you want this 30 colors, you want white, but then effectively year and year, you've got too much of one segment, less of the other, and you are not addressing. So effectively, you are failing in implementing your corporate, your strategic plan. Then you might as well review and say, let's reduce here. So it's just an observation, sir. And obviously the revenue, I still realize it still hasn't grown much from then. I'm of the view it's still low. That's still work to be done. That will assist the organization in its campaign, in its reach out, because stakeholder is a strategic objective of the organization, the awareness and education. In order to do that, and also in light of the profit and loss, the line item expenditure is quite high, as you would saw that. So to me, I was immediately saying, look here, I still think some of the challenges are still evident there. So anyway, so no questions, just observations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that observation. I think one of the challenges for the Liquor Authority is also getting the organization to a point where it is not reliant on grant funding for its operations, but it's able to operate on its own income, and it's something that we address with the board and with the CEO on a regular basis. But thank you very much for your time this morning and for making yourself available. As I said earlier, we will have make our recommendations to the minister, and the minister will then lead that appointment process. I think all of this will happen in a fairly sort of tight timeline because the current board's term expires on the 31st of March. So we wish you well with the rest of the day, and thank you for making yourself available.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the other members of the committee. Have a great day to yourself as well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Colleagues, according to my records, that is the last candidate for today. We will interview Ms. Martins and Ms. Abdul tomorrow. Wasim, am I right, or am I lost as usual?
I won't add anything to that comment, Chairperson. But yes, you are correct, Chairperson. We are done with the interviews today and 2 tomorrow. The starting time is 8 o'clock, but the first interview should be at 8:05. I gave the committee about a 5-minute gap just in case we needed to go over some things. Once those interviews are done, if it goes as smoothly and quickly as it did today, the members must just stay logged on there because it's a meeting link for the department that will present at 9 o'clock. So you can just mute your button and come back at 9. Person, with your permission, I presume that the members would use the scoring system as we've done in the past, but not all members were necessarily part of that scoring meetings in previously. So the scale that we normally use is 1 to 5, with criteria being 1 sort of weakest and 5 being the highest. Half points so allowed as per the previous process that the committee followed. We haven't really done this before, and it's entirely up to the committee because it's not necessary. We aren't dictated in how we do this process. Is whether or not the committee wants to put a guideline in or criteria for what must be in place for someone to have a 1, what must be in place for someone to have a 5. It's not a necessity. It's just, I'm just sort of putting it out there to say that it might be a consideration for the committee if they want to do so. Otherwise, the previous interviews and stuff and scoring that we did, there were no issues really. But perhaps for those that haven't been part of these processes to understand, okay, what exactly does it mean if you give someone a 3, 3.5, 4, 5, whatever. But as I said, it's just up to the committee whether you want to delve that deep into giving substance to the criteria, or if you're okay with just say, look, 1 to 5, this is the weakest, this is the highest, give your score. And what we will try to do is I will share the screen tomorrow morning. Let me just go here. So members can maybe on their own, even like, yeah, so what we'll do is we'll go per interviewee, and then there will be a total score that comes out there. I think I might need to add another column. I think we were 5 members, but that shouldn't be a problem. And we'll go down the list in terms of the interviews process that we did today. So I try to get the list like that as well. Although Mr. Mngena, yeah, so I think this one might have been swapped around, but I'll do that after the meeting. That's it from me, Chairperson.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Members, just also to remind you that the board consists of 6 members, And what we are looking for is candidates who have the appropriate knowledge of or experience in the systems and processes of ensuring proper accountability, probity, and openness in the conduct of the business of an organization. And also we're looking specifically for one member of the board who has appropriate knowledge of or experience in dealing with the combating of the negative social consequences of the abuse of liquor. So that is in terms of what we are looking for. So we're looking for people who have an understanding of how organizational oversight is conducted, but also specifically one person with the prerequisite experience around alcohol harms reduction. I just want to get sort of opinions from members. Do you want us to score the candidates that we've interviewed now, or are you happy for us to do that scoring in the morning? Perfect. Thanks, Member Barnes. Member Bartman, I see your hand, and then Member Fry.
I'm happy to do it in the morning, Chair. I just wanted to check, sorry. So are we scoring just like out of 5 per person? I've been scoring per question out of 5. So I just need to make sure that when I give you my numbers that is accurate. Thanks.
Member Fry?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to score in the morning.
Okay. Member Bartman, we are scoring out of 5, so sort of 1 person per score. So if you can consolidate all of your sub scores into 1 score, that would be very helpful. Okay, colleagues, with that, Wasim, I see your hand.
Oh, Chairperson, it's you can even decide today or tomorrow morning, because we're gonna have that 5 minutes before the interviews how you want to score, like in which order, member this, member that, member X, member Y. But it's not really that important, but it might just add to us getting done quicker.
We can just go in alphabetical order. Bartman, Bosman, Kasim, Fry. No, sorry. Barnes, Bartman, Bosman, Kasim, Fry. So is there anything else, Wasim, that we need to cover for today?
No, Chair, we are done.
Perfect. Members, thank you very much for your time this morning and for making yourself available. We will then meet again tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. We will do the last 2 interviews and then our deliberations. And then we will then go straight into the policing needs and priority meeting. Member Barnes, I hope you get some rest and that you feel better. And that you're able to just relax for the rest of the day. And I'm very sorry that we've scheduled 2 meetings in 1 week back to back, but I'm always cognizant of the fact that you'd like us to have more meetings, just judging by the debate earlier this week as well. So we will make sure that before the term ends, we have quite a few meetings to still cover, just as a side joke. But I do hope that you rest and that you feel better in the morning. Wasim and Marianne, thank you very much for your work in putting this together this morning. And we will see you all tomorrow morning. The meeting is adjourned.
Bye.
Thank you, Chair.